Alright, so part 2 of 8.4. So let's talk about Theorem 813. So Theorem 813 deals with a rectangle. We have a rectangle. Remember, opposite sides are parallel. All four angles are 90 degrees. We know that in a parallelogram, diagonals bisect each other. In a rectangle, though, not only do they bisect each other, but both of the diagonals are congruent. So I have essentially 4 segments within the diagonals that are congruent to each other. That was a point M. Remember that it bisects at point M, so this guy and this guy are congruent, this guy and this guy are congruent. But in a rectangle, the diagonals are also congruent, so all 4 of these guys are congruent to each other. So Theorem 813, a parallelogram, is a rectangle if and only if its diagonals are congruent. So AC is congruent to BD. Okay. All right, sketch a square. List everything we know about a square. Well, we know that square shares all the characteristics of a rhombus and all the characteristics of a rectangle. So, characteristic number 1. We know it's a parallelogram, meaning opposite sides are parallel. We know it's also a rhombus, meaning it has 4 congruent sides. We know it's a rectangle. It has 4 90-degree angles. In addition to that, right, it shares characteristics of a rhombus within its diagonals, right, and that the diagonals are perpendicular. It shares characteristics with its diagonals just like a rectangle in that they are congruent and they bisect each other. It also shares the characteristics of a rhombus, that its diagonals bisect opposite angles, just like a rhombus. So 4 90-degree angles. Diagonals are perpendicular. Diagonals are congruent. And diagonals bisects opposite angles. Okay, they share both the characteristics of a rectangle, both the characteristics of a rhombus. Okay. So suppose you measure diagonals of a window opening and the diagonals have the same measure. Can you conclude that this opening is a rectangle? Yes, because a rectangle, a parallelogram is a rectangle if and only if the diagonals are congruent. So yes, you can. All right. That is that section. Hope you have a great rest of your day.